I bought an abandoned yacht for almost nothing. But when I came back months later to renovate it, a woman opened the door and told me her family lived there now. I still remember the day I found the yacht listing like it was yesterday. I wasn't even looking for anything serious, just scrolling late at night. Half out of boredom, half out of curiosity. That's when a single post stopped me cold. An abandoned yacht, docked at a quiet marina. Price so low it almost felt like a typo. At first, I laughed it off. Deals like that don't exist without a catch. But the more I looked, the more real it seemed. The photos showed a once beautiful vessel. Faded white paint, rust creeping along the railings, torn canvas covers flapping in the wind. Neglected. Yes, but far from ruined. I called the number expecting it to be a scam. Instead, I got an exhausted Marina broker who sounded relieved someone had finally asked about it. He explained that the yacht had been sitting there for years. The previous owner had stopped paying dock fees, then vanished. No family came forward. No legal disputes pending. The Marina just wanted it gone. Every month it sat there. It cost them money. That explained the price, but it still didn't explain why no one else had jumped on it. I drove out to see it the next morning. Up close, it was obvious the yacht had stories to tell. The name on the stern was peeling. The deck creaked under my feet. Inside, dust covered everything like a thick blanket. Old charts lay curled on a table. A cracked leather seat faced a darkened control panel. Frozen in time. It smelled like salt, oil, and abandonment. Most people would have walked away right there. I didn't. I saw potential. I imagined weekends restoring it piece by piece. I pictured it polished, floating proudly again. Not as a luxury toy, but as a personal project, something earned. The broker was upfront about the risks. Once you buy it, he said, it's yours. No warranties. No promises. I did my homework. I checked the registration, verified the title, confirmed there were no liens. Everything came back clean. That's when my gut told me this wasn't luck, it was timing. Still, everyone I told thought I was crazy. Friends warned me about hidden problems. One guy joked that abandoned boats always come with abandoned problems. Another asked, half serious, if I was sure no one had been secretly living on it. I laughed at that. The yacht had been locked. Empty. Dead quiet. Or so it seemed. After the paperwork cleared, I signed the documents and officially became the owner. Standing on the dock that day, keys in my hand, I felt proud. Nervous, but proud. I didn't have time to start renovations immediately, so I secured it properly, informed the Marina office, and made a plan to return in a few months with tools, supplies, and time. I walked away believing I'd just made a risky but exciting investment. I had no idea that while I was planning renovations, someone else was already planning to move in. A few months later, I finally cleared my schedule and headed back to the Marina, ready to start turning the yacht into something livable again. I had a checklist in my head: deep clean, engine inspection, electrical check, and maybe even stripping the interior down to the bones if I had to. I was excited in that nervous way you get when you're about to see whether a big decision was smart or a huge mistake. But the moment I turned onto the dock, something felt off. From a distance, I noticed the yacht looked different. Not cleaner, not restored, just occupied. The canvas cover I had secured was folded neatly instead of torn and loose. One of the small porthole windows was open. That alone made my stomach tight. I told myself it was probably Marina staff checking on it. Still, I walked faster. Then I saw it light. A warm, yellow glow coming from inside the cabin. My heart dropped straight into my chest. I stopped walking, just stood there staring, trying to make sense of what I was seeing. This yacht had been empty, locked, untouched. I knew that for a fact. And yet, there it was, glowing like someone's home at sunset. As I got closer, more details jumped out at me. A pair of shoes sat neatly by the entrance. Not old junk, actual, worn-in shoes. A towel was draped over the railing, drying in the breeze. I could hear movement inside. Voices. A TV murmuring low, like someone trying not to be noticed. At that point, confusion gave way to shock, and shock quickly turned into anger. I stepped onto the deck. half expecting someone to pop out and explain this was all a misunderstanding. No one did. Instead, I noticed furniture that hadn't been there before. A small table, plastic storage bins, a child's backpack tucked into the corner. My hands started shaking not from fear, but from the sheer audacity of it all. This wasn't squatting for a night. This was a setup. Someone had moved in. I knocked on the cabin door, harder than I meant to. Footsteps froze inside. The TV went silent. For a long second, nothing happened. Then the door cracked open just enough for a woman's face to appear. She looked annoyed. Not startled. Not scared. Annoyed like I was the one interrupting her evening. She asked what I wanted, as if I had just walked up to the wrong boat. I told her this was my yacht, that I owned it, that she needed to step outside. Her expression didn't change. If anything, she looked almost amused. She opened the door wider, revealing more of the interior now fully lived in. Blankets, food containers, family photos taped to the wall. Before I could say another word, voices chimed in behind her. A man, kids, an entire family, living comfortably inside the yacht I had legally purchased. My mind raced, trying to figure out how this even happened. How did they get access? Who told them they could stay here? And why did none of them seem even slightly concerned about being caught? Standing there on my own deck, staring into what had become someone else's home, I realized this wasn't going to be a simple conversation. Whatever was about to happen next, it was going to be messy. The moment she stepped fully out onto the deck, I knew exactly what kind of situation I was dealing with. She wasn't apologetic. She wasn't confused. She was confident, almost rehearsed. Arms crossed, chin slightly raised, eyes scanning me like I was some kind of nuisance rather than the rightful owner. Before I could even finish explaining that I owned the yacht, she cut me off and said, flatly, that I was mistaken. According to her, this yacht wasn't mine. It was community property. She said it slowly, like that phrase alone should end the discussion. Then she launched into a story that made less sense the longer it went on. She claimed the Marina had allowed her family to stay there temporarily, that the boat had been abandoned for years, that no one was using it. And somehow, in her mind, that meant it belonged to anyone who needed it more than I did. I told her I had paperwork, a title, a bill of sale. My name was legally tied to this vessel. She waved her hand dismissively and said paperwork didn't matter because everyone around here knows. The yacht was fair game. She even pointed down the dock, insisting other people would back her up. Not a single person came forward. Still, she stood there smirking, completely unbothered. Her husband appeared behind her, trying to look intimidating but clearly uncomfortable. The kids peeked around the doorway, watching like this was some kind of show. And then came the real audacity. She accused me of trying to steal the yacht from her family, said they had been taking care of it, maintaining it, making it livable. She claimed that without them, it would be fallen apart completely. That's when she pulled out her phone and flashed a few blurry photos, supposedly proving they'd been living there. With permission. No names, no signatures, no Marina logo. Just vague images of the yacht docked. Like that proved ownership. I asked her directly who gave her permission. She dodged the question, changed the subject, started talking louder. She raised her voice so people nearby would hear. Said I was harassing her family, that I was threatening to put children out on the street. She played the victim flawlessly, switching roles in seconds. I could see Marina staff starting to look over, unsure of what was happening. That was clearly the point. When I suggested calling Marina management to clear things up, she suddenly got defensive, told me I had no right. Said management already knew. Then she leaned in closer and said something that made my blood run cold. She told me if I tried to force them out, she'd make sure I regretted it. That she knew how these things go. Standing there, listening to her twist reality in real time, I realized this wasn't just entitlement. It was strategy. She believed if she acted confident enough, loud enough, and long enough, I'd back down. But what she didn't realize was that every lie she told only made it easier to tear the whole thing apart. At that point, there was no reason to keep arguing on the dock. Every sentence she spoke contradicted the last. And the more confident she acted, the clearer it became that she was relying on intimidation rather than facts. I stepped away, called Marina management, and calmly explained that people were illegally occupying my yacht. Within minutes, the tone of the entire situation shifted. The Marina manager arrived first, visibly confused the moment he saw the family inside the yacht. He recognized me immediately and confirmed, out loud, that the vessel had been legally sold months earlier. That alone should have ended it. But instead of backing down, she doubled down. She claimed the Marina had promised her the yacht because it had been abandoned. The manager asked for names, dates, any written proof. She had none. That's when she changed tactics. Her voice cracked, just enough to sound emotional. She talked about having nowhere else to go, about doing what she had to do for her children. For a brief moment, people around us looked uncomfortable. Sympathy started to creep in. And then the manager asked the simplest question of all: how did she get the keys? She froze. After a long pause, she admitted they didn't have keys. They had found a way in. That admission alone flipped the entire narrative. What she'd been calling community use was now clearly trespassing. The Marina manager immediately contacted security, who pulled dock access logs and confirmed that her family had never been registered as temporary occupants. No permission, no agreement, nothing. When security mentioned calling the authorities to formally document the situation, panic finally showed on her face. She started arguing again. But this time it wasn't confident, it was frantic. Her husband tried to quietly gather their things, while she insisted they just needed more time. The kids were ushered inside, out of sight, as if that would somehow stop what was already in motion. The police arrived shortly after. Calm, professional. They separated us and asked for documentation. I handed over everything: title, bill of sale, Marina confirmation. It took them less than 5 minutes to establish that I was the legal owner and that the family had no right to be there. When they asked her for proof, she had nothing left to show. No screenshots, no stories, just silence. That's when the lies unraveled completely. Security footage showed when they first boarded. Neighbors confirmed seeing them move furniture in at night. The story about permission collapsed under its own weight. What she deframed as necessity was now clearly deliberate occupation. The officers informed her that she and her family had to vacate immediately. Any damage would be documented. Any refusal would escalate the situation further. The dock went quiet. No yelling, no speeches, just reality setting in. As they packed up their belongings under supervision, I stood back and watched the truth do what arguing never could. No shouting, no drama, just facts. And facts, it turned out, was something she had never planned for. Once the last bag was carried off and the police confirmed the yacht was officially cleared, the dock felt strangely quiet. The family was escorted away. And just like that, the chaos that had taken over my project disappeared. No dramatic outburst, no final threats, just the hollow sound of footsteps fading down the pier. Karen didn't look back, not even once. That confidence she had worn like armor earlier was gone, replaced with tight lips and a stare locked straight ahead. Whatever story she planned to tell herself next, this one was over. I stepped back onto the yacht alone for the first time since buying it. The silence inside hit harder than I expected. The lights were still on. The air smelled like cooked food instead of dust and salt. Evidence of their stay was everywhere: makeshift bedding, empty containers, taped up photos already peeling off the walls. It was unsettling, like walking through someone else's life that never should have been there in the first place. But it was also grounding. This was my space again. Marina security documented everything carefully. Any damage, any missing items, anything altered from when I first purchased it. Thankfully, most of the changes were cosmetic. Nothing structural. No major vandalism. That alone felt like a small victory. The Marina manager apologized more times than necessary, assuring me new security measures would be put in place. Dock access codes were updated. Locks were replaced. Cameras were repositioned. This wouldn't happen again, not to me. And not to anyone else. As I stood on the deck watching the water lap against the hull, something shifted in me. I hadn't just taken back a yacht. I had taken back control. Karen had counted on intimidation, confusion, and sympathy to carry her through. She assumed I'd default, walk away, or feel guilty enough to let her stay. Instead, she walked away with nothing but the consequences of her own choices. A few days later, renovation finally began, this time for real. I ripped out what didn't belong, scrubbed away the signs of occupation, and brought the yacht back to neutral. Slowly, the place started to feel like a project again instead of a problem. Each repair felt symbolic. Each coat of paint was a reminder that entitlement doesn't beat ownership, and confidence doesn't beat the truth. Word spread quickly around the marina. People who had quietly watched the situation unfold stopped by to talk. Some admitted they dealt with similar behavior before but never saw it pushed this far. Others thanked me for not backing down. Karen's reputation, apparently, hadn't been spotless before this, but this incident sealed it. She didn't just lose access to the yacht. She lost credibility. Standing there weeks later, tools in hand, sun setting behind the docks, I realized something important. This story was never really about a yacht. It was about boundaries, about knowing your rights, and about how quickly people unravel when their sense of entitlement meets reality. I bought an abandoned yacht expecting rust, repairs, and hard work. I never expected to renovate my patience or teach someone else an expensive lesson along the way. If you enjoy real stories where entitlement meets reality, make sure you resubscribed, because this channel is full of situations that went completely off the rails.